we'll start off by telling you why the heck they chose us to talk about digital presence. So Melissa, why'd they choose you?
Well, I work for a company called ASP. We're a proud Shepherd Sandbox partner. And I think, as you heard Richard say yesterday, we produce websites for trade shows. And that's all we do, associations and trade shows. That's our specialty. So we don't do anything else. We also create brands as well for trade shows. So I've been with ASP for 10 years now. And we have offices in London, Vegas, and Sydney, Australia. So I'm dealing with clients and their shows globally. So in the Middle East, in India, and China, and Russia, and the States, and Europe, obviously. So I see a lot of websites.
Great. So she's going to be talking about websites.
That's fine.
And I'm Rachel Wimberly. I'm the president of Trade Show News Network, and we're an online news source for the trade show industry, mainly in the U.S. We serve some U.S. markets. We have a newsletter in Asia, but we're the top-ranked website in our sector, and we also produce 6 newsletters and have about 170,000 subscribers monthly to those newsletters. So we have a broad reach in the industry, and I've been a print gal my entire life until 3 years ago, or almost 4, Trade Show Week closed, which I used to work for, and went over to completely online, and it was something that I never imagined that I'd like, quite frankly, because I was just so much a slave to print. And I love online. I mean, the fact that you can be so immediate and you can track it, and the feedback is so incredible off of, much more so than print. It's just a whole different animal. So that's why I'm talking to you guys, because I started from scratch in it all. So I learned a lot of things not to do in a very good way, and I learned a lot of great lessons on how to do things the right way as well. So we're actually going to start off with,
well, we've found the holy grail of websites, which we think is what everyone should be aspiring to. So we really wanted to start with that and show you a really strong site we think that you'll all see why we like, and we'll talk you through the points. The thing too that you should know about Rachel and I, we really love technology and we love digital, but we're also realists. We're not going to tell you you need to do this, this, and this because everyone else is doing it. There has to be a real business reason. There has to be the community. So we're not up here just to tell you about technology for technology's sake. So let's start with this website. I need sound for this, so. Okay. So there's some things that we really like about this site, and the first thing I think is the use of colours and how they slightly hurt your eyes a little bit when you're looking at the screen.
right.
So that's my favourite part of this site.
Right. And I love the chicken. I think that the use of any kind of flash and movement is great in a site.
And then my particular favourite is Christine, who works for them and is singing for you live. I think that's a great touch. So this is how not to do a website,
right.
really. So
in every way.
In every way.
And just to give them credit, this was a blog post that Angerbach did a couple months ago. They said and it was titled "The World's Worst Website," and of course I clicked on it because I was like, oh, I want to see this. And then it had a really great post about what should be done right on websites. So
yeah, so that's not what to do. So let's go back into our presentation. Actually, that's still on. Let me just turn that down. There we go. Okay.
Okay, so enough fooling around.
So we're going to talk today about websites, e-newsletters, and social media. I'm starting with websites. And there is so much I could really tell you about the technical side of websites, about content. So I'm going to tell you just very briefly just a few things. And the first thing, though, what we wanted to ask was, who's happy with their event website and what's working for you? And, or is there anyone that has any issues that they're here trying to think we'd really like to figure out a resolution? So is there anyone that wants to share?
Because honestly, we could sit up here and tell you all this stuff the entire time about, all the best practices and stuff like that, but we want you to have a takeaway out of the room of what you came here for. So if there's something, particularly, and we'll break it down between websites, e-newsletters, and social media. So in the website realm, if there's like a question you have that you want to kind of start off with, to get the conversation going, we'd love to hear it. Otherwise, we can go as we go along. So let us know. Yes.
John, do you want us to pull it up? We can have a look at it if you like. Do you want to show everyone? What's the URL? Oh, okay, yep. You have a very tough audience because they're very design-led and they like big visuals, very clean sites. Is it the Design Expo? Is that, yeah. The Wi-Fi here is really slow, so it's probably just taking some time.
Yeah, it'll take a minute to load. And we could probably start, or is
There
it
we go.
loading up? Oh, good, okay.
Is that the site? No?
Is it, okay.
Okay.
We might have issues with the internet just because it's a little bit slow. So do you want to talk us through anything that you were going to ask, or you wanted to just look at it?
Mm-hmm. Oh. Sorry, that just clicked onto a video.
Okay.
So you have your association site and then you have a separate site for your event that's branded in a different way. Mm-hmm.
And that's definitely something that we find to be a challenge. I mean, obviously they said that there's more than 60% of everybody here is association-based show organizers. So that's something that we're actually going to talk through, and we have an example of one of the shows represented here. It's an association show that on top of having a branding across their show site, they merged to association and had to rename and rebrand the entire association and website all at the same time, and did a fantastic job. So we actually have a really good example of that, so that might help you out. But
So effectively when someone comes to your site, you've got there's been studies done, 50 milliseconds to really make an impression. And there's a few things that should be non-negotiable, and you'd be surprised when we're looking at sites, how many sites don't actually have what we feel are the basics. So the first one is your logo. It should always be top left. That's the best practice. You can try and play around with the layouts if you like, but generally most people's eyes go top left. The logo should be clickable back to the homepage. Don't waste that space. You need the date and the location. They're two key things that a lot of shows don't have on their sites. You don't want people guessing, because if I come to your site, I want to know in the first, let's say 3 seconds, where it is, when it's on, and who's producing it.
you'd be shocked how many, because I'm on websites all day long with my job, you'd be shocked how many websites don't have the venue. I just went to register for a show the other day, and I had no clue where the show actually
You need
was.
city.
Yeah.
Yeah, you need
Well,
to
not
see it.
just the city, but to me, it's the venue, like where, because when I'm booking the hotel, I don't want to have to guess on how far away, even though I just like to know everything, like where am I going, how am I going to do this, and and things like that.
So it sounds really, really basic, but we thought we'd start there and then we could go up. So, and the other thing is calls to action. You want really clear calls to action. You want to tell people what they should do on your site. So whether that be register, whether that be apply for a booth, and the calls to action should be specific to the pages that you're on. You don't need to have register across the entire site if you're in exhibitor pages. You can tailor them, but ask people to do something. That's all you need to do. The other thing that we find on a lot of websites is navigation. You'll find, and this is probably the biggest thing I get asked a lot when I'm working with new clients is, how do we organise all of our content? And I always say maximum 3 clicks to get to somewhere where you need to find your information. So if I want to know how to get to the event, it should be under exhibiting, under attending. It should be very, very clear. So I say my rule is the 3-click rule. No more than that. If I have to keep going down, then forget it. If it's buried on a page at the bottom, people won't find it. So there are different options now with navigation. You can do main menus with sub-menus, or we've got this new thing, well, not new, but it seems to be a design trend, and design trends will change year to year, what we call mega menus. So when you hover over a menu, you'll get actually a bigger box that will almost have 3 tiers of navigation, but it's just a design trend as well. So always when you're working with your shows, you should be looking at what's current every year. So you can't tick off a website and say, we did that last year, it was perfect, because design trends will change, and that includes how it affects your navigation. So keep it simple, 3 clicks. And then clear branding. You want people to come to the site and know exactly what your event's about. Don't make them guess. So let's go over to the show that Rachel was talking about, which was, let me just close this off. Well, this is the association, which was American Hort. Mm-hmm. So you can see it's a pretty clear site. If I want to become a member, I know where I'm going. You've got really great graphics with very clear calls to action. There's a lot of white space, and generally when you're putting a site together, white space will make the messaging in the page stand out more. So we're not saying keep everything like with little tiny writing, just so that, but you can see here that there's white space. The other thing I like is the biggest clear call to action is join, and it stays there. You notice wherever I'm going, it stays there. And that's a newer design technique that we call that floaters. I don't know. There's probably a technical term, and I'm not very technical. That's I work in technology, but I call it a floater.
She's more designy.
Yeah. So they sit there. Now I have clients that use that for social media links. Some of them that we've designed too, when you click on them, will come out and will have extra information in there. But I like it because it's very clear on what you want people to do onto that page.
We have it on ours as a register. So we run an awards program every year, and so that on every page that you go to, it never changes. There is that call to action: register, 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 register. Whatever page you click through, it's there.
So we'll go over now to the actual event site. Yes. Usually they're on a footer. You'll put it right down the bottom. Usually it will have there. That's kind of how the design is. But if that's something that's important to you, if you want someone to pick up the phone, then make that part of the design when you're briefing in your designers. So you could put that detail up here if you wanted to. You won't have we're giving you best practice. But if there's something specific that you want to achieve with your site, then it would be, you can find a place for it.
And I actually like sites that I go to and I need to talk to someone, and it says need to talk to someone right up there, and there's like a nice button, and you can either open a chat window or there's the phone number, because if I have to Google a phone number for like my cable company one more time, I'm like, so it's a great point. Just ask for whatever you need. Yeah,
but the thing is too, when you're designing your homepage, think of all the things that, or you're giving your brief to your designers, think about what's important to you, what's a must-have on there? And step back and think of it like a magazine. If I was designing the front cover of a magazine, what would I put on there? You're not going to put everything. That's Ling's website. You saw that. They wanted everything on there. So you need to step back and think about it and take the time to think about those key calls to action, because you do have the opportunity for people to go on. Once you've got the first impression and they've got the right calls to action, they will find what they need to, as long as the navigation's clear.
And you have to put yourself in the mind of whoever is coming to your show. Are you an attendee? What do you need to know as an attendee? Like literally think to yourself, okay, walk yourself through the process as an attendee. An exhibitor, walk yourself through the process as an exhibitor. And answer all those questions that you need to, but don't go nuts. You don't need to, you don't need to have every single thing under there, but just the key questions that they need. So, David?
You can definitely segment your audience if you know where they're going. The only thing with that you have to be careful about is search engine optimization, because if that's the only content you have on that page, that's the only content the search engine will find. So you need to have those buttons, but you need to have a little bit about the show underneath it. You need to have more content on there. But yes, certainly segmenting is a way to do it, definitely. So going back to Cultivate, you'll see there is a definite continuation of branding from the association to the event website. And you'll see now that the call to action is now hotel, a register and hotel. So they've found a layout that works for them in their show, and we thought it was really strong. We really liked it. And you'll see the navigation's very easy, so I know where I need to go. So we thought this was a really great example of a site to show you. And for us, it was a very different feel from the sites that we've seen here with the associations. No, it's just horizontal across the top, yeah. Oh, you should always try and keep websites on, you can scroll down, that's fine, but scrolling across, you...
Oh,
that's just
the
a
flash
slider.
action, yeah.
That's a slider, so that will move automatically. But when you're talking about your resolution, you build it for one screen, and yeah, you can go up and down, just never across. But these are just basically images with some text that go across. So some of the other things I wanted to show you some sites. This is full disclosure. This is one of our shows that we've helped a client launch. They've taken over. We've done the branding for it as well. It's for the collision and service repair industry. Now, some of the things I like about this site is you'll see there's a new technique, what we call parallax websites. So it almost looks like one big website where it kind of moves up and down. And then if you want to go down, you can just click on that and it will go. So yeah, the whole thing was that they've moved this event to Detroit. That was the key. You had to know where it was. And I think when you go there, you know, it sits there. So that's one example.
Can I just say, can you scroll down? And we'll talk about this more later, but what I really like is that there is actually content on this site. There's news on the
Video.
And there's video. There's clear calls to action here in a really nice visual way. It's just the layout. I mean, but for me, being a content provider in general to the industry, I just love that there's another reason to go there. Besides, if you go there and you happen to register, but you're like, oh wait, there's some great news here too. It becomes a place that people go back to, so you're creating a place to go besides just a place to register.
So this is 3 associations, I think, running this event. So that's at the bottom, but yeah, that visual is the key hero image for that event. The other one we've got to show you is Integrated Marketing Week. This is an event that we, again, produced for eConsultancy out of New York. What I like about this site, do you notice the menu doesn't move? The menu stays fixed to the top. That's another design feature which has just come out in the last year as well. And that's why it's really important to keep looking at the design of your site. Thinking my site 2 years ago, there are so many things that come out that you really won't know about. That's what your provider should be doing for you, saying, hey, have you seen this? Have you seen this? Have you seen that? It's up to us actually to keep up to date, not you guys. We should tell you what's going on.
But I think a great thing to do also, two things that I want to jump to. One is, see the social media up there, right on the top nav bar? Probably more than half the sites I visit for show sites, the social media is buried at the bottom in the footer. I highly suggest putting it at the top. I mean, because you want people to engage and know where to engage and see it right at the top. And then secondly, if you are going through particularly a major redesign of your site, I always think it's great, and I know you'll agree with me from a designer point of view, if you go to maybe 10 to 15 event websites, or any websites actually, and you tell, maybe take the top 5 and say what you liked most about them, to give them an idea to start from, whether it's navigation, whether it's, the way that that sticks to the top, all that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. And then also what I like about this site, they've got video integrated, so that's just a YouTube code that they've just put in, and then speakers, because if your event is conference driven and people are there to see the speakers, this is a really nice feature to be able to see them. So the other thing too is you'll notice all these sites are quite clean. The content is what pops. So they're just some of the things we wanted to show you. Let me go back. All of those are content management systems, and that should be a given. And I haven't talked about the technical back end too much here, but content management system, whichever one you use, you should be able to update your sites without having to go to anyone. We're in an industry where the content changes, and we know what's going on with it throughout the year. And so that content has to be relevant and timely. That's key. And it needs to be you need to be able to easily update it without being a techie. That's a given. Or having to pay $150 every time you want to change a word. So yes, all of these are on a content management system, and same with American Hort as well. Yep. And the American Hort is also integrated with IMIS. So they use different vendors too. There's lots of different vendors that do lots of different things, but we're just looking at design at the moment. So let me go back into my presentation. So with your content, keep it succinct, make it relevant, make sure that each page counts. Don't just cut and paste your brochure onto a page and think someone's going to go through it. Pull out key things that you want someone to see, or to know. So infographics, does everyone know what infographics are? It's a design trend where you're pulling out numbers with some stats, but they're done in a graphical way.
You know what it almost is like is the person who drew the picture of the conference.
Yeah.
That's a visual format that was just on paper, but infographics is just that it's done in a digital format. So you can present a really cool digital format that we actually saw. I don't think that we have it, but we saw it on one site. But somebody had a whole infographic about who exhibitors would be seeing at the show, and I was like, oh, what? This is so cool. I mean, who puts that on their site? And you know what? Everybody should put that on their site. If you want new exhibitors, or you want exhibitors a reason to return, what a cool infographic to have. And you can just pull that out of your data and do some really fun little imagery around it. And
well, what I see when we're working on brands is that a lot of people spend time laying out their attendee brochures and their exhibitor brochures, and then the website they just chuck everything on there because they can. Think about each page. Think about why, if I'm going to the attendee page, what do you want them to do? Again, it's just, I would take even the time to do maybe those 3 landing pages the most. You're welcome, your attendee, your exhibitor, and to spend time on those 3. And the rest of it, you are going to have some pages with content, long content, that happens, but they're the 3 key ones. My 4th point is use your exhibitors and seminars to the fullest. This is a real lost opportunity I see with a lot of sites. Not having a full exhibitor directory where you can click onto each exhibitor and have information. And same with your seminars. Each seminar should be a page on the site. Each speaker should have a page on the site, and they should have their own bio. And there's a few reasons for this. The biggest one is search engine optimization. All of those words that are in there for a session description or for a speaker's bio are all words that you probably couldn't write yourself in a marketing piece, because you can't encompass every single word that every speaker might take, or every topic every speaker might take. So it's great to have that information on your site and have it as a standard. But yeah, David, for you? I would recommend it as a directory. What I wouldn't have on there is email addresses. The function to be able to still contact that exhibitor is key. All I can tell you is I know our system, we hide the email address, and you have to use the website in order to contact that exhibitor. Then the exhibitor has to log back into the website to get their messages, and the organiser can check that those messages are valid. So, and you'd be surprised what people do. I've had competitors go onto other competitors' websites to chase money from exhibitors and contact them. So that obviously they can veto that and say that's not going through. And then you'll get the spammers, and you can easily see spammers because they'll write programs that can do that. So I would hide the email address, but I would have a separate. I would have each individual page for each exhibitor, though. I would still recommend that.
There's also been, obviously, in the industry overall, I just wrote an article on this about housing poachers, and the main reason, the main way that they're doing it is going through exhibitor directories online for shows that have the email showing. So I talked to several show organizers about what were some best practices, and there's a whole committee that's been set up, as well right now in the industry to kind of look at this more carefully. But one thing that somebody suggested that I thought was interesting was that when somebody registered, they'd get a code that they'd be able to enter to go into the full exhibitor directory where they'd have emails showing. But you could only get that if you fully registered for the show. And if you were interested in the show and you were verified, if you were verified as being interested in the show and working for a company, they'd have a guest code. So that was just one thing that's being kind of, and this is in the committee overall that's been set up, I think through IAE on this. That's just one thing to think about as well. But it would kind of, David, talk to your point on that. But it is an issue.
And then the other thing when you think about your content is if you're selling advertising or sponsorship, and we had that session yesterday, and I think it's key to think about that when you're designing your sites. Instead of saying, all right, I've done the site, oh, my sales guy's now gone and sold a banner and I don't know where to put it. Oh, I'm gonna put it at the top of everything. Well, it devalues the site. It probably doesn't look great. You're gonna end up like Ling eventually because your sales guy's gonna go and sell 50 gazillion of these banner ads because no one, the website is just an add-on and it's a nice to have, when actually it's prime real estate and everyone comes to your website. Absolutely everyone. So to say it's an add-on would devalue it. So it's got to be looked at as an inventory with proper sponsorship strategy over there. But think about it when you're doing the design, and that's what you brief your designers again. If you're going to sell advertising, tell them we're going to sell this place, this, and the designers should be able to leave spots for them and design around that.
And there is a lot of revenue opportunity. I mean, obviously there's a big push overall, in the industry, and then, and depending on your show, about the print directory. But the pushback, as everybody knows, is wait, what about all those print ads we get in the directory? So one way to think of it is with your website, you can monetize a lot of the website. If you do have an online exhibitor directory, that people are going to and all the attendees are going through, that's a sell spot, so you have to kind of look at, look through your directory like you do your show directory or a brochure if you're selling advertising, and think about what are the different, sponsorship opportunities and advertising opportunities across your site because they're there.
And then yesterday we were talking about 365, and it's a question I get a lot. Should we be 365? Should we have a separate community site than we do from our event website? And there is no real correct answer for that, basically. It depends on your community. It depends on your resource as well. Resource is a big issue. I would say if you're not sure, the first thing you should do is definitely start integrating news onto your event site. Start putting that on there, utilising press releases and putting those onto the event site, using exhibitors' press releases. You've got all of these pockets of content, and you should be pushing them all through to create a really interesting site. Now, you don't have to do it yourself. You don't have to be sitting there writing all the press releases because your exhibitors are uploading content. You've got great seminar content. You've got great speakers. You've got all this social media. That can create buzz for 365. Yeah, and we will always get that bell curve. That's that's life, because you know what it's like. If you're going to an event, do you really want to engage with something for 365 days a year? Not always. So you have to be realistic about your expectations of 365. But you can definitely start off looking at news, putting that in, and then tracking. Are people looking at that news? Have I got a lot of traffic to that? Did they look at the news and then register? And then you could start developing the community from that. And then you can either decide to stay in that site or pushing it off to a separate website. And if it's a separate site, then you're going to need more resource and editors, et cetera, et cetera.
But if you're an association or even a for-profit, you can keep pushing all that content. I mean, a piece of content, I don't know if you all know about Content Marketing Institute, but it's pretty amazing. And a guy named Joe Paluzzi runs it, and he always says that when you produce one piece of content, you should know the next 16 places it's going to go, or whatever, however many placement places that you have, like across every single aspect of your organization. Are you going to tweet it? Is it going to go on LinkedIn? Are you going to Facebook it? Are you going to do anything on Instagram? Is there a video on YouTube? Are you going to put it on your association site, your for-profit site, your event site? So you're just, it doesn't have to be overwhelming, because if you can use one piece of content so many places, and it basically cross-promotes everything else you're doing if you're doing it correctly. Because you're going to keep driving traffic back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, and that's what creates that 365 kind of organically.
Data capture. I see a lot of sites that don't do it besides register. So e-newsletters, register your interest. If your reg isn't up yet, put a form up there so you can capture data. I mean, you have great results with your
Oh, we
e-newsletter.
do, and this was somebody who actually told me this once, and it was one of those kind of aha moments, because I didn't know much about online, quite frankly, in the beginning. As they said, when someone first goes to your site for the very first time, you should have a form pop up where you can sign up for any of your e-newsletters and welcome to the site. A one-time form. And then it's like, basically it caches their IP, and they don't have to see that form ever again unless they keep going across all these different browsers and computers, and then that's on them. But if
That'd be really sad.
If they're sticking to,
If they love your site that
sticking to like
much.
one or two computers, but because my boss said, I keep getting that form, and I'm like, well, you travel all over the world and keep touching computers, so just stop it, and you won't get the form anymore. but then I said, did you sign up? But anyway. But our newsletter, if anybody here does newsletters, you know that the subscriptions on newsletters, usually kind of go down, after a while. But ours consistently are up, and they go up, constantly. Basically every day there's people signing up for the newsletters who come to the site.
But I see clients who have data capture for, we'll let you know when our education program goes live. We'll let you know when our we've got some great speakers. Just use the opportunity. If people want to give you the data, let them. Because that's the lifeblood of our industry. It's data. So have that capture on the site, aside from registration.
And ask it kind of in a fun way. Hey, are you interested in early bird discount? Well, we'll let you know. Who wouldn't? Be, oh wait, I need that reminder. So do it's just a way to obviously capture the email to remind them. But if they're going to come to the site anyways, you might as well.
But I also think too, if you're going to capture that data, you have to use that data. So if you're saying register your interest, we'll let you know when reg goes live, you need to let them know when reg goes live.
Mm-hmm. Don't abuse the data.
Yeah,
also.
Don't abuse the data.
Don't spam the heck out of them after that. So
they're signing up for that specific piece of
right.
content, so keep it that way.
Yeah.
So as I said to you, I didn't want to talk to you about too much techie stuff, but you probably would have heard about mobile websites. You may have heard the term responsive, and now the new term is adaptive as well. So which one should you have when you're talking about your event website? Mobile is probably the easiest, and that just gives a version of your website which is very pared down. So if you're on an iPhone or you're on an Android, it will still be your current site. It will just take away a lot of the kind of all singing or dancing stuff and just give you the content. And that should be, at the bare basics, what you should have is a mobile site. It's different from an app. An app is something you download and it sits on your phone. This is just a different version of your website for mobile.
Basically, so it looks pretty on your, so when you look on your mobile phone, it's not cut in half. You can still see the things, on any, it's on different size screens, and it's a standard thing now when you get a website done. It's very hard to design an entire site and then go backwards. You can, but if you're doing any kind of redesign, ask for it up front, and if they give you resistance, that's kind of like a non-starter.
So I'll go to adaptive because I want to show you responsive as well. Adaptive is, it's a technical kind of setup. So what happens is if I come to your website and you have done an adaptive version, it will say, what country is this person coming from? Let's serve this version of the website. It's probably the most costly way to create a website that's specific for your different audiences. I would say not many people are doing adaptive as well. Is it overkill? Yes, unless your site isn't changing at all and you're like a Coke or you're an American Airlines or something like that. Responsive is when someone comes to your website and it says, what are you using? Are you using a Surface? Are you using an iPad? Are you using a mobile? So if I show you this site we've done for a client of ours, it's 100% design. It's a design show in the UK. It's actually quite heavily attended in Europe, and it's actually known, it's a very well-known event. You can see this is a very, very different layout for a show, but it works for their industry, and they have had such success with redesigning and what they're doing here with their content. But you'll see what it looks like there, and let me just show you what it looks like on my Surface. I don't know, let me just quickly. So this is what it looks like when it's this way. Okay, so my navigation is on the side, there's all the content. When I turn my Surface, it changes. So I don't lose my content, it's still there, but the content changes for the screen that it's on. That's responsive. Now, we've been doing that for 2 years for our clients, and American Hort they're responsive as well. And they're probably one of the few American sites that I know of. David, are you doing any responsive anything? Well, you can always tell if your site's responsive when you go like that, if it changes. If it doesn't change, it's not. If it stays the same, or if you're on a computer and you make your browser smaller and bigger. So if you see on this site, if I make this browser now smaller, it should, see, it starts to change. And now my navigation is at the top, because if I was on a tablet or I was on a mobile device, I would lose my navigation if it was on the side. Now it goes up the top. So
it's been around a couple of years, but it's still really new. You know, it's not something that a lot of major sites even have. But it's something that, you know, particularly if you're looking at a redesign, it's something to, you know, have on your checklist. You know, and that's things that we were interested in giving you guys is, you know, I mean, because everybody has a website and you all know, you know, basic stuff, but we wanted kind of new things on your checklist to take away from. So that's one of them.
Yeah, and I think also what it demonstrates is that, you know, your website's technology is changing, it's moving fast, but there are things that will benefit your show, and that's why you need to have someone that is kind of aware of it, or just see what else is out there. And then the last thing I want to talk about is keep your URL the same every year. Don't put the show year in the URL because you lose great search engine optimization. So, you know, having show14.com or .org, when you go and do it again for 15, you start from scratch. Now, Google will look at your URL and say, how long was this domain registered for? Oh, it's only new. We don't think we're going to give it some time to validate its credibility. Whereas if it's there, oh, yep, it's been there for 5 years, 6 years, you'll build up great search engine optimization. So always try and keep the URL the same. That's the main part of the URL. Doing something like 2015.association.org is fine, because it's a different way of using the domain. But just make sure you try and keep it same year to year. So yeah, things to remember. Think about the user. Don't complicate it. Keep things fresh. Analyze where people are going on your site. You know, that's important. And post-show, your content's still valuable. Don't pull your website down and put up a splash page saying coming soon. That's the worst thing you could possibly do. Absolutely worst thing you could possibly do. Keep it up there. Keep that content up there. And just change the positioning of your homepage. You know, we had a great show, here are some photos, et cetera, et cetera.
And then you can pull down the content off other things, you know, like schedule coming soon. You know, I mean, there you can kind of say different things.
Mm-hmm. So does anyone else have any questions about websites? It's a big topic, so sure. Okay. Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely.
There's a few things I've seen clients do. I would always say put it up there. Again, the more content you can have on your site, the better. And if you've got someone who is actually cultivating that content, definitely put it on there.
And especially if it's original.
Yes.
You know, I mean, it's not an RSS feed, you know, it's
Yes.
or aggregated. These are different.
Yes.
Okay.
So yes.
Okay.
The other thing you can do is also put the speaker's presentation with that summary, so that I can say, and you can password protect that, so if you actually have attendees that have come, here's your special access to go and now download all the presentations.
Sure.
Yeah, of course. I think they are. I think they are. It's a very good question. Okay. So that was a yes. Sure. Well, basically, any industry website should have an RSS feed. That means it's their content that you can pull into your own site. Now, it depends again on the platform that you're using, but I know for our clients, they can take multiple RSS feeds together and put them all in one, and then put them in one area on the website. No, because it's clicking straight off to their sites.
And you have to click off to their sites because otherwise, and I'll tell you as a content provider,
She'll
and
get upset with
everybody
you.
rips my content off all the time. You know,
No,
no, that's my analytics.
no.
So-
With
Yeah,
RSS
if you ask,
feeds-
I mean, like anybody who's, if I'm using your content, I mean, the least that I could do is tell you like what kind of site traffic I'm getting for your own, you know, analytics. And that's kind of a quid pro quo, I think, in the industry. Huh?
Yes.
Well, yeah, absolutely.
But
I mean,
our-
that's the nice way of doing it for sure.
Yeah.
So,
But you are limited with functionality with RSS because it's supposed to be just pulling in the content and pushing people off.
right.
That's taking someone else's content and putting it onto your site. You can have your own RSS feeds of your content
Right.
being pushed out that someone else can take.
Right. And then clicking it all back to your site.
Yes.
You know, so.
Yes.
But I highly suggest whenever possible, you know, to create your own content, you know, because that's the best content, you know, that you're going to have, you know, for your, or, you know, and I'll fly through e-newsletters pretty fast because, you know, a lot of this crosses over. One of the things that we do at TSNN is, particularly for our blogs, is, and everybody has it in their industry, is go to thought leaders in your industry, and particularly your suppliers. You know, you know, I mean, it's a great opportunity, you know, to find out best practices across all these different, you know, sectors in your industry. You know, as long as, and I have two rules: don't pitch, and I'm not linking to your company in your blog. I'll do it in the bio. And this amount of content that I get every week that is really cool content from you know, suppliers and/or, you know, other show organizers, whatever, is great. You know, tap into your own community. Sure, we do that. Yep. Right.
Yes.
And ask all your speakers, you know, to tweet link in, whatever, create conversations as well. There's so many different ways to do that. I mean, that's why it all self-perpetuates if you keep, but you've got to pay attention, and somebody has to be, there has to be at least one person who's minding the store, you know, so. All right, I'm going to jump into this because, yes, I'm sorry.
Let's go back and we'll have a look at it. So if we're looking at American Hort, those calls to action here, these, you're talking about these? That is part of their campaign for that year. So that they'll probably use that on all their attendee brochures. You'll probably see that dude like in signage.
You hope so.
You hope so. You want consistency of brand, and that's key to creating credibility. He'll go and they'll do new imagery, or well, that's traditionally what happens in Europe a lot, and I haven't seen it a lot in the States. The logo stays the same in Europe, but the campaign, this color, like that main visual you see there, changes every year. Every year. It's not really, because the values of your brand and your association are always the same, but it's just creating a different hook every year to keep people interested and engaged. So, you know, theirs is Who Comes to Cultivate, or they've changed their name to Cultivate, so they're trying to make it very clear. But it's about, because you've got, what's that show, Label Expo, and they have amazing campaigns every year, and every year everyone looks forward to seeing what are they doing. What are they doing this year? One year it's a circus theme, another year it was like illustrated spaceships, and you know, a campaign like that doesn't have to cost you, you know.
Well,
no.
Once the structure, and website people hate it when people like me say this, because my husband's a website designer and he hates it when I say this. But once the structure is actually there and the placement is actually there, it's re-uploading an image, it's changing a font color, it's, you know, it's not reinventing I know, but it's not reinventing the wheel from scratch, you know, so.
What do I say to that? No.
That's why I'm
tend
saying
to agree
that.
with that.
You know,
I tend to agree that you have a very good wireframe. I call this a wireframe. So saying that my logo's here, my navigation's here, my clear call to action here, it's a wireframe. But it's that messaging that will create interest. That is what you have to apply, and that's where the skill of having someone come in and
I'm saying
that.
I know you agree with this. Don't be scared of doing it because you think that you have to pay and overhaul an entire site and.
The what? It's both. Basically, what you need to do is create a new, or you create a campaign, and there will be guidelines with that campaign. So it will say you use this font, this is your color palette. So for Cultivate, you can tell their color palette is the gray, it's the green. So and they have certain fonts that they use, and you can see that on the headlines here. So your agency or whoever you use will produce a little brochure and say, this is what you should use it, and this is how you should use it.
And that should be across everything then.
Yeah.
You know, your brochure, your signage,
on your signage.
You know, every single person should.
Yeah. Yep, we've got to crack on.
I know. It's like, wait, we've got 10 minutes left. I know.
We'll just turn this into a 2-hour session. It's fine.
Yeah, I'm going to literally fly through. So how many people, or show organizers in the room, or companies in general, are sending out an e-newsletter at all about your show? Okay, great. And then the ones who are not, is it because you don't want to, it's not your audience thing, is it a resource thing? Can someone say that's not doing it right now, why you're not doing it, even if it's like it's just not something we're interested in? Can anybody speak to that at all? Nope. That's fine. But so that's my first question. Does every show organizer need one? that's up to you. You know, I mean, it's your audience. You know, do they want to hear from you year round? Some show audiences don't want to. You know, they're fine if they don't hear from you year round. If you don't have a newsletter, you know, I highly suggest putting something on your site. And it's not something that you have to do. But if you want to create a 365, you know, day presence, or even send one out every quarter, which, you know, is perfectly fine, and keep that touch point going, you know, with you know, prior attendees, exhibitors, and potential new attendees and exhibitors that are coming to your site and maybe signing up for that pop-up newsletter that you have there. It's just a way to keep the conversation going.
And it also helps with conversion of attendees.
Yes.
Because the more they see you, the more they engage with you, the more likely they are to turn up to your event.
Yep. I'm sorry.
You've got it.
Are they okay with that? That's great. Mm-hmm. Of course they are. Yeah, I was going to ask about how, yeah. And your attendees don't complain? That's good.
Is that content on your website as well? Is that product content on your website as well, so that I could go and find those products?
Might be an opportunity there
Might
for
be.
you. Yeah. So very quickly, how often should you send? Honestly, it's up to you, your audience, your resources. When should you send? We send out our main newsletter at 7 a.m. Eastern Time, Tuesday morning. And, you know, but it's different, you know, honestly, depending on different industries. Sometimes people read e-newsletters at 5 o'clock on a Friday. You know, so I say for at least the first couple send it Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, just, you know, and send it at different times, see what your best open rates are, stick with that, you know, and it's going to be different. So there are some kind of best practices, but honestly, you know, in your own industry, they're just going to change some. I highly suggest creating a send schedule. Try to stick to the deadline around it. Particularly if you're trying to create, you know, a news source, you know, within your community. People like consistency. People like the fact they get the newsletter from us every single Tuesday. They know when it's coming. They know my name's on it. They can either go, I'm interested in what Rachel has to say today, or they can delete me. So, but they know when it's going to be there. And believe me, if I don't, I mean, I think one time I was on vacation and it didn't go out the right day, and I got all these emails asking if everything was okay. So
quality problem.
I was like, well, but and then yeah, and then you know, try to set up your text, you know, in advance. So let's see, a couple quick design things. Make it clean and simple. This is same as websites. Make sure your logo branding showing, have clear calls to action. Design is really everything. I love this one because you can see exactly who it's from, nice logo, cute picture of an otter. Everybody likes the cute animals, at least I do.
Actually, there's been studies, and apparently if there's the word kitten in the subject, most people will open it.
Yeah.
No, seriously. There was two key words. It was like kitten and then like love or something, and people were opening. It was something silly like that.
That's so funny.
But this actually won the IAEE Art of the Show Award for email promotion.
Right.
So that's why we've got it up there.
What does it want you to do? Right there. And then, you know, it has the hotels here. It's really visual, easy. So this is, you know, just a nice little e-newsletter. Make sure they're mobile friendly. You know, obviously you want to, you know, have the same thing. You know, people can read it on their smartphones. Everybody's on their smartphones. Personalization, I'm going to have Melissa talk about this super quick.
I just think at the very least you should be segmenting your data by at least attendee and non-attendee. At the very least, because there's nothing more annoying than getting an email saying, register, I already have. So that's the minimum amount of personalization I think you should do. During registration, when you're asking them and grabbing their details, start the personalisation then by asking them questions. What are you interested? What sectors are you interested? What are you trying to do? And try and make it clever. So we've got some examples here. This is a consumer show in the UK. They sent out an email, and also they sent out an email, but they had pre-qualified all the people they were sending to. So you'll see that this person was interested in architects, bathrooms, heating and ventilation. So when the email went out, it said, these are all the exhibitors you should be looking at. So there is a little bit of work you have to do with it and segmenting, but there should be email
But once it's
companies
done,
out there
it's
that helps.
done. And then how cool is that? You know?
This one is a really interesting one. This is Internet Retailing Expo. This email had a 51% open rate with a 33% click-through, and it increased attendee conversion from 55% to 61.7%. So they spent some time on here. There's a lot of different variations of this email, but it was worth it for them to spend the time on it so that they could get the conversion to attendees. Because it's about saying, yep, we know you're here, we know who you are, and this is what you should be. This is why you should be coming. It's so compelling.
Yeah, so basically with e-newsletters, don't be boring. Make it fun, add some interesting facts, shows, games, incorporate social media. Please put those social media buttons at the top of it. You know, talk to people in the newsletter, you know, create some kind of, you know, conversation or reason for them to engage with you. Give people a chance to share their thoughts through comments, you know, ask them questions, get feedback. Make sure to incorporate calls to action. For video in newsletters, I love getting video in newsletters. I think the video should be used at every show. You know, if you're wondering, you know, what a great marketing campaign is to get people to the show, show them. What's fun about your show? You know, put a video, at the very least on your website, and push one out in newsletters saying, have you signed up yet? Like, look what happened last year, or create something fun, you know, around the show itself. Have some fun contests. National Restaurant Show did one. I thought it was cute. It was, you know, they have so many chefs that come to their show. It was like the best tattoo art, you know. And then they had people upload it into Instagram, and you voted on it, and that person won this big award at the show.
Tats
you know,
are really
so,
big in that industry.
Yeah, so, I mean, it was cool. So, all right, so that's an example of a video. I'm gonna keep flying because we have 3 minutes, and we haven't even hit social media.
Let's go.
Do's and don'ts. We'll have all this available. Make the content engaging. We said a bunch of this. Write a subject that is not too abstract. That's the most important thing on your e-newsletter, your subject line. Make it very, very clear. Make sure your show name is in it. Make sure the from line has your show name in it so they know who it's coming from.
We have actually, I have a report available that I'll make, that everyone can grab, which is from Adestra, which is an email marketing company out of the UK, but they've done analysis on B2B events and B2C events, and broken it down by actual subject lines and response rates on subject lines, which I think you'll find interesting. So whether it's like a time communication, or whether it's a discount communication, they've got a whole big analysis on it, so I'll make sure that's available for you all to see as well.
The great thing about the internet in general is you can track everything. You can track all your e-newsletters. You can see who's opening them by email. You know, it's you know, a great. The blacklist, do not spam. Do not spam your attendee list, you know, with newsletters. You know, make sure that you have like you know, an opt-in feature. Make sure you have an unsubscribe button, because if you get blacklisted on your send, then you can't send newsletters directly to your people. So just be careful about that.
And the unsubscribe doesn't have to be from just the show. It could be from certain.
Yeah.
Yeah. We
Well,
could
okay.
have certain sectors.
Sorry, I'm going to keep going. So one thing is, so this is our part of our newsletter. Monetize it. I mean, we have ads, we have banner ads, we have side ads, we have like these little clickable ads, you know, on our newsletter. This is Atlantic City, obviously A to Z. ECF is a conference happening next week. You know, this is a revenue source. You know, so that's something to think about, is that even if you don't have the time, you know, you don't think you have the resource to do this, you know, if you create a revenue model around it and then back it into your costs, then it kind of, you know, pays for itself and more so. So we don't have time for social media for trade shows, which stinks. But let's see. I'm not going to go through the basics. I'm going to show you guys a couple quite fun stuff. Crowdsource your content through social media, you guys. South by Southwest does this amazing thing called panelpicker.com. 30% of their panels are crowdsourced through the people who are interested in attending their show. And the URL we'll have it in the presentation. But think about doing that. You know, I mean, I know everybody sits there going, what content are we going to have this year? What are all the sessions we're going to do? Why not ask your people what they're interested in and have them come up with sessions? And there's so many people that could actually, you know, do the sessions themselves. Do polling. You know, you can crowdsource your content. One source is PollDaddy, is great to use. Create excitement. You know, this will all be, we'll make sure everybody gets this. Do a tweet chat before your show. Have like one of your thought leaders do a tweet chat and talk about, you know, what's going to happen at the show. Create a great conversation. Have people sign up. Think about LinkedIn, creating a group there and encouraging people to register and create conversations. Don't just do pitching the show on that. Create a hashtag and promote it everywhere for your show. Have it available, you know, on the signage. I can't tell you how many shows I go to and I'm like, what's the hashtag for this show? I really love to tweet about it, but I have no idea what it is. So make sure it's on all your signage. I like tweet walls if they work for you, particularly, you know, for certain types of shows. This was a huge tweet wall done at actually at MGM, but it was like this beautiful, you know, tweet wall that was done. It was running, you know, live content
I've seen
from
it
the show.
projected onto a wall before as well.
Yeah, it was really cool.
Yeah.
It creates a lot of excitement. At PCMA, they had a scavenger hunt that you did through Instagram. They gave you like 15 sites to see around Boston, and the person who got the most sites, you know, and got them uploaded won a contest. I thought it was great for Boston. I was wondering about PCMA because I was like, you know, if you're running around Boston trying to take pictures the whole time, are you really at the event? But the idea is they created a fun thing. I do it on the show floor or maybe around the convention center, but it's something to think about. And then just keep the energy going year round, you know, with your social media. You know, it's such an amazing resource. It doesn't cost much. You know, you've just got to really dedicate someone in your staff, someone to mind the store, and then everybody else to help participate. So that's it. Yeah, that's it.
That's it.
It works for some shows,
Yeah.
particularly designy ones. Jewelry, I'd be doing Pinterest in a minute. You know, I really would. Yeah, it depends on your show. But honestly, if I were doing, you know, I don't know, medical association, nothing against them, but you know,
but-
who's going to look? I don't, you know, who's going to look at Pinterest for?
But you'd be like, I think there's a pool show as well that has a whole
Yeah,
industry.
I've
and
seen great things done, but you've
But not
got
about
to
pools,
promote
it's
it
about-
and
yeah.
get people engaged, do contests around it. You know, it's just so, there's
a lot of
so
Pinterest
much to
contests
do.
now.
So.
Yeah.
I don't like scheduled posts. I don't like, this is me. Hootsuite. Oh, through a cross promote them? Well, you just have to connect, you know. I mean, there's ways of connecting them, and they don't always play nice. You know, I just do it all separately.
Yeah, we
You
use
can.
TweetDeck for our company, and we schedule posts.
Yeah. I mean, some people do. I personally, I like to be more kind of in the moment with what I do with that because I can tell scheduled posts, you know. Yeah.
Yes and no, because I've seen where everything's all linked, like all integrated, and sometimes I'm like that was meant for Twitter, and I'm on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
That's not relevant.
That's why, yeah.
You know, and I don't use
and the way it
hashtags
shows
on
up in Facebook, yeah.
Yeah.
So that's why. It's just, I don't know. So, well, thank you, everybody. Sorry we went
That was
over
a lot.
a couple
Sorry.
minutes, but
Thank you for your attention.